Although Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was published in the 1800s, the story itself is much older. The goddess's descent into the underworld, her trials, and her return is a thread between figures like Persephone, Ishtar, Inanna, and Sophia. For those familiar with Gnosticism, you know the embodiment of wisdom, Sophia, is said to have accidentally created the physical world, but in doing so, she becomes trapped within her own creation, now unable to return to the Pleroma, the heavens not bound by matter. It is the same story. We too, like Alice who falls into the rabbit hole, have been trapped in time and space. One could say the price one pays for spirit descending into matter. The fall or descent into Wonderland is the plunge into a game of extreme dualism, the very game we've been playing. In this way, the story of Alice in Wonderland allegorizes the reality of the living souls and gives us the keys to understanding and unlocking ourselves.
My. If I came this way.
Wonderland is full of wonders, but not necessarily wonderful. The fantasy world is interesting, but leaves Alice feeling incomplete. She finds her way out by realizing at the end it's all just Maya, a veil, a grand illusion. Alice wasn't pleased with the tranquility of her original world. She was bored. So she ends up falling down the rabbit hole into a place that makes absolutely no sense. This is Wonderland. There's no rhyme or reason. Everything is the opposite of what it seems, but at least it's interesting, right? She falls onto the checkerboard after chasing the white rabbit, but not really. The game is played, but like I said, at the end of the story, Alice wakes up unharmed. This is what is happening to us. We're on the checkerboard, a grid designed so we can get rid of the black and white schematic Wonderland offers. Dualism itself overlays on top of the earth until we observe what we see now, a place full of wonder, distractions, diversions, paths, and mind traps. But at the end of the day, it's as illusory as Wonderland was in the story of Alice. The first chapter and opening scene displays Alice in judgment, in discontentment. And I quote, "Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank, and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it." Now, there's nothing wrong with where she is. In fact, the movie shows her in a beautiful, tranquil environment, but alas, the white rabbit appears, and the white rabbit signifies time, which Alice is keen to plunge into. This is why the rabbit carries around a big old clock. The veil of time is a tool the universe uses to purge and transform, and this transformation for Alice begins once she falls onto the checkerboard. The game is now ready to be played. Sophia has split off from the Pleroma, the living souls put on the sine wave. In my video on the Purgatory Dumping Ground, I explained how this environment, locked within time and space, is actually a safe container for the living souls to release their individual and collective baggage, merging back into the original blueprint. Alice derives from the ancient Greek word aletheia, which means truth. So Alice can be translated as truthful one. So Alice is in a virtual reality simulated construct invented by a mind which instilled its own virus into itself by pulling away from the now moment. This is Sophia wishing to create a world of her own, the same way Alice daydreamed of something more interactive. In the world of mathematics, The Fibonacci numbers have been famously generated by calculating the hypothetical offspring of rabbits. Rabbits, falling, spirals. This is all related. Wonderland is the Fibonacci rabbit hole Alice falls into. It's representing the fractalization of an infinite consciousness into a finite perception. This is why after falling on the checkerboard, she is shown going through many doorways, falling further into fractalization until the room she reaches is surrounded by cubes on the wall. This is the squaring of the living soul's consciousness, squaring the circle, which can be related to the flower of life and Metatronic entanglement. We have been in the land of the Fibonacci, the fib of no chi. In my short series on the Metatronic overlay, we talk about the toroidal compression field and how heart energy is contained by a false grid system, which we now know to be purgatorial in nature. This heart energy is the aurora borealis. We talked about the living souls, the finite number of players in this matrix, being the dreamers of this third-dimensional existence, exactly like how Alice dictates before entering Wonderland the conditions, but then finds herself entrapped within her own creation, viewing it as separate from herself. In the Disney version, Alice sings a song before falling down the rabbit hole called In a World of My Own, where she is actually setting up the conditions for the very matrix she is about to plunge into by saying things such as rabbits will live in houses, which she experiences, like the flowers will have special powers, which she experiences. A world of her own essentially means Alice is wishing to be isolated with herself, to confront thyself by having obvious projections and manifestations stare her in the face. So whether she knows it or not, she is already determined that the journey she is to embark on is one of reconciliation. However, she gets caught up in the false dichotomy of light versus dark, of self versus other, until the final realization in which Alice proclaims, "You're nothing but a pack of cards." Alice has an epiphany of sorts and comes to know the true nature of existence, namely, that everything is a facade, Maya, just a dream within a dream. In this moment of truth, Alice realizes within her is a force, a power that nobody else in Wonderland seems to have. And, well, as living souls, we've been called to take a look around and ask, are these people even real? To learn more about soulless beings and the nature of true projection, please watch my video, You Are the AI Dreamer. She runs and runs and eventually merges back into her original body. The Alice who was so desperately trying to find herself, uncomfortable, longing for satisfaction, now has realized the authentic self, something which transcends the belly of the underworld, which was really her own inability to connect with true wisdom. Alice is shown many paths throughout the narrative, but these do nothing but confuse her. Truth is found within, not without. And all paths eventually converge in singularity. Thank you for watching. Take care, everyone.
Whether you're lost
Sophia comes from the heights, opening up 4 islands. You'll take a guess at the time twist, but will you feel your brightness? Sophia comes from the heights, from the inside, from the inside. Sophia comes from the heights, from the inside, from the inside. I bet